Chairpersons of the Global Councils on SDGs, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the inaugural meeting and soft launch of the Global Councils on SDGs, term 2021 to 2023. We use the term soft launch, although of course in reality we can afford no such thing in today's changed and challenged world. As together, we strive to reimagine global societies and economies in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's truly no time to lose. Nor can there be any pause in the United Arab Emirates' mission to build and reinforce impactful partnerships driving sustainable development between communities and across borders. Not least as we near the occasion of our Golden Jubilee and we reflect that our nation was founded on principles that would later be enshrined in the global goals themselves. Since the launch of the first term of the Global Councils on SDGs in February 2018, those esteemed councils have identified and successfully implemented multiple avenues as delivery mechanisms to address the SDGs. We are thankful for the solid foundation built by the first term councils, and we are mindful and motivated by the precedent that they have set. Today, we welcome 17 distinguished chairpersons who will embark on the second term of the Global Councils on SDGs. I am grateful to each chair for their dedication and their commitment to making a positive difference to the global community. I'm impatient to hear news of their undoubtable progress, and I am eager to witness firsthand the impact that their efforts will achieve in the attainment of a cleaner, brighter, and fairer future for all. This second term will divert from a singular SDG approach to a nexus model approach. Given the myriad complexities and interlinkages of the SDGs, the councils will galvanize and accelerate the implementation of the goals through innovative partnerships, inspiring projects, and informative white papers that will advance our understanding of one another, as well as the challenges we face as a society today. I look forward to welcoming the Global Councils to Expo 2020 Dubai.
I think there was an issue with the audio.
When we will celebrate
from them, they are sending message
and their respective work programs. Before then, there is much to do. The world is watching, the world is waiting, and we must all deliver. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
As always, Your Excellency, it is inspiring to listen to you. Thank you. Expo 20 is a manifestation of the progress we have made on the journey toward the global goals. A few days separate us from the inaugural of Expo 2020. We wish you and your esteemed team all the best. The objective of today's meeting is to introduce Global Council chairs to identify cross-council collaboration opportunities to foster partnerships for the goals. We will first start a panel discussion with our 5 chairpersons who are continuing their journey from the first term to share both insights and lessons learned. Our first panelist is Her Excellency Mona Al-Mari, Chairperson of Global Council on SDG 5, serve as the Vice President of the UAE Gender Balance Council. Her Excellency Al-Mari is recognized regionally as one of the most influential advocates of gender balance and women empowerment. We also have with us His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gur, Chairperson of Global Council on SDG 4. He is the Chief Executive Officer and Vice Chairman of Dubai Cares. With his passion towards education, His Excellency Dr. Al-Gur has been key in developing programs that support the global education agenda. We also have Right Honorable Helen Clark, Chairperson of Global Council on SDG 16, is the 37th Prime Minister of New Zealand and former administrator of the United Nations Development Programme. She is a respected global leader on sustainable development, gender equality, and international cooperation. The fourth panelist is Mary Amy Burry, Chairperson of Global Council Finance Advisory Board. She is the head of impact-based finance at Societe Generale. Mrs. Buri is a structured finance professional with 27 years of international business experience. And last but not least, we have Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, but I think due to technicalities, connection issues, he's not joining us today. Your Excellencies, thank you for joining us today. We're honored to have you and look forward to learning more from your experience from the first term. With this in mind, I will first start by asking Her Excellency Mona Al-Marri, Right Honorable Clerk, the following question. What are the key lessons learned from the first term of Global Councils on SDGs that will drive greater success stories in the second? So we will start with Her Excellency Mona Al-Marri. The floor is yours. Thank you, now we move to Right Honorable Helen Clark. We would like to hear from you on the key lessons learned from the previous term. Over to you.
Thank you, Hanan, and greetings everyone from New Zealand. It's obviously been an honour to participate and to see how enthusiastic the government of UAE has been for really pushing the SDGs along. The SDGs have had a hard time with the pandemic, so every effort helps. The SDG 16 is a very broad one. It's governance, it's rule of law, it's peace, it's all kinds of things, and so you can't have any one initiative that's going to span it. So what I think we found worked was to support very specific things, and one that came forward from one of our members who was very involved with youth engagement and empowerment was to back major challenges to young people to come up with ideas which would foster more peaceful and inclusive societies within which young people had a say and could design and propose projects. And out of that, really thousands of people got engaged and in putting forward proposals which would be a benefit to their society. So I thought that was really rather useful. We also spent quite a lot of time on the development of a proposal on how to support those who must lead implementation of the SDGs. And I'll talk more about this a little later in our time. But suffice to say that achieving the SDGs is not just about having good policies, not just about having the money. And some people don't have either good policies or the money. But even if you have good policies and the money, unless you have the skills at the ministerial level, supported by a capable public service to drive them forward, you don't make very much progress. So that's where we've zeroed in on our attention. A lot of time spent on refining the concept and ready to move along in the second term of the council.
Thank you. So good policies, financing, skills at ministerial level. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask our same panelists specific questions related to the work of the councils. We will start by His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gurg. First of all, congratulations on your new appointment as Vice Chairman of the Board of Dubai Cares. The end of the first term of the Global Councils on SDG 4 saw education face unprecedented disruption. Can you share with the audience what you see as the crucial priorities and critical steps that should guide countries towards SDG 4 in the decade of action? Passing it to you.
They did not have the privilege to get any education. So one problem we're talking here is everything that we have been seeking to bring education back to society, bringing children back to school, giving them quality education as one problem. Then comes COVID, and we thought we were solving the older problems. Now we have a new problem, which is connectivity, technology, low tech, high tech, and how can we reach to these rural communities? And that's creating a big issue. So what we have to look at, we still have to look at the old problems because we haven't actually solved them. Let's go back in history a bit. What education systems started 150 years ago, 120, 150 years ago. After that, before everything until 150 years ago, humanity was moving in a slow pace because although education were in homes, but we didn't have a proper education system. 150 years ago, education systems started, schooling as we know it started, then humanity for the past 150 years until today advanced. We got the first industrial revolution, we got the second industrial revolution, third, now we're seeking upon the fourth. And with the technological advancements that we're going through for the past 10 to 20 years, is phenomenal. What did that happen? It's education. What's happening today with COVID? COVID hit. Look, you see, we were shy 20 years ago. We had the technology to move towards remote learning, but we didn't. I don't know why us as humans, we were shy to move, or we were afraid probably. But what COVID did today is actually, in a snap of a finger, it led us to go towards remote learning, to have virtual classrooms and learning. So my main point here is, if we don't do anything today, if we don't unite, if we don't create a proper ecosystem, a new system which is flexible, adaptable to the new changes, we won't be able to cope with the future jobs, with how we will be in the future. So, and one big problem we have as a global community, we are divided when it comes to education. We don't have a proper global system or a plan that we can work upon. Health has an agenda, climate has an agenda, agriculture has an agenda. Education does not have a unified agenda, and that is causing an issue. What we need to do today is to unite. And that's what we're working towards as Dubai Cares with the Rewired platform. Hopefully later on, I'll be talking about the Rewired Summit that will be held end of this year in December at Expo 2020 in partnership with Expo, as well as in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We will hopefully gather everyone to have that change, to have a unified approach towards global education and the future of our youth and our children. We don't want to be recognized as the batch, as the generation that didn't do anything for the future of our children and grandchildren in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Ghork. Of course, education is very essential to the goals. Now, I would like to move back to Her Excellency Mona Al-Marri. Your council actually developed the Gender Balance Toolkit, which feature best practices from around the world and is a key resource to gender balance globally. Can you share with us perhaps two of the most interesting practices that can easily be adopted, and also when and where we can obtain copies from the toolkit? And I've been receiving messages that due to the technicalities and connection issues, we have lost your voice from the first question. If you could summarize actually the lessons learned from the previous term, we'll appreciate it.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. What I talked about previously about the lessons learned from the first term, I talked about inclusiveness and global partnerships, and how, when I say inclusiveness, I mean diversity, that is really matters, different profiles, experiences, and also the age groups that we feel, and I'm sure that everyone believes in the importance of having a younger members within their councils. Such joining efforts toward achieving one goal, and that goal is understanding and communicating our agenda as a council, which is the gender equality. And I think also we should never underestimate the importance and the power of global partnerships and a strong network. Because of such partnerships, we can share our knowledge, we can share experiences and the know-how. And we did, which I'll come to right now, had a great partnership with OECD when we worked on our initiative, the toolkit, to achieve a more gender balanced and sustainable global community. Talking about this important initiative that we did as a council in the previous term, the Gender Balance Toolkit, we think, is a global reference to which we have worked, as I said, that in collaboration with the OECD. And it really combines all best practices from around the world and not from one particular place. And in one comprehensive guide. Two elements that I would like to briefly speak about today, the gender mainstreaming and the self-assessment. And what do we mean by the gender mainstreaming here? We have a section in the toolkit about the gender mainstreaming, and it ensures that gender equality is included in all streams of life, not only one. And this is shown primarily in governments through designing comprehensive public policies and legislations that are factored into the work. And I'll give you an example on that. That is also mentioned in the toolkit. Sweden is a great example, particularly their actions to mainstream gender in the legal sector and the system. What they did, they surveyed the legal sector to understand gender biases, and then built awareness through educational programs to promote gender equality and talk about issues and how to address them. And when the second one was the self-assessment section of the toolkit, and this section is really which I'm proud of, since it's extremely first user-friendly, but also impactful. In this section, we included in each subsection of the toolkit the self-assessment. So I'll give you also an example on that. Let's say one of the ministries, for instance, wants to assist the women's access to leadership roles. You will easily find 3 to 5 questions using internal reflections for measurements. This section also includes 3 important markers for progress. And those markers for progress designed for entities to measure their success and understand the steps to advance in gender balance is really, you'll find it in this particular stream. So in general, I think, every member of the council is really proud of this initiative. And I really thank the OECD for this collaboration, because out of this partnership, which I've talked about earlier, we really could get out a great initiative that would be reflected and seen across not only all levels of organizations or the public sector, but also you'll see it in the private sector, you will see it across governments, hopefully. So coming back to your question, when this will be announced or shared and where, we're planning to launch the toolkit hopefully during the Dubai's Expo in early 2022. And this will be also freely available on our websites as a Gender Balance Council, the UAE Gender Balance Council, and also on the OECD website. So this is briefly what we did with the toolkit. And I hope that everyone will have a copy of it. It is freely available online. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We're also proud of this gender tool kit, and we can't wait to see it online. And best of luck in the launch. Now, we will turn now to Ms. Mary Amy Burry, Council Chairperson of the Finance Advisory Board. You have spoken about the Nexus approach many times, given that this will be the focus of the second term. How do you see cross-council collaboration can support the work of the Finance Advisory Board? Over to you, Mary Amy.
Thank you very much. So yes, indeed, I've spoken about this before, and I may sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. I truly believe that achieving the SDGs requires a disruptive, holistic, and impact-based approach, which means we really, for every investment or initiative we conduct, we need to try to maximize the impact out of it and not just the initial intended impact. And therefore, I was really very happy to see that this Nexus approach has been chosen for this new term, because that's really where we're going to be able to have more impact by working together. So how do I envisage this cross collaboration? Well, of course, I would advise each of the different councils, and now we have a quite larger number compared to the previous terms, to reach out to each other and take the time to understand what is it that each of the councils really wants to achieve, what is their intended impact, what are they trying to do, and then maybe brainstorm together as to how we can combine certain actions and improve the outcomes of those initiatives, and concretely how to collaborate, because time passes, as we know, and we need to find time to work together. And as far as the SDG Advisory Board, which we renamed from the finance cluster from the past term, really what we're going to try to do for each of the other councils that reach out to us is to provide our resources. We're trying to put together a panel of experts from different areas of the financing value chain, and put this expertise and these networks at the service of the other councils in order to help them develop or scale up the initiatives they have chosen.
Thank you, Mary Amy. Let me turn next to Right Honorable Helen Clark. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Leadership for SDGs is the core of driving global sustainable development. From your experience of working with former Dutch ambassador to Macedonia, Simone Filippini, what are the milestones achieved during your council? In addition, how do you envision enhancing peer-led leadership programs for sustainable development in the second term? Over to you.
Thank you, and also great to hear of the work of the other councils just reported. Education and gender equality are very close to my heart, and really agree with the comments that were made. With respect to the Leadership for SDGs initiative, as I implied earlier, it recognises the reality that many people come into ministerial positions without necessarily the skills that are required to drive policies through to implementation. In many countries, ministers may be quite technically expert, even in the areas of their portfolio, but that's a different thing to go from technical expertise to actually being a policy maker and an implementer. There are skills to that. And we often make the point that in the case of business executives, for example, people have a lot of training invested in them, but we don't tend to invest in our ministers. In the development sphere, the attention has been more on the civil servants, and a capacitated civil service is extremely important, but ministers need to be capacitated as well. So that's the gap that our initiative identified. And as I said, there's been a lot of work done to develop the concept of what one would offer as a package to a government that really wants to drive through the SDGs and wants to see all its ministers capacitated to play their role. So there'd be three components identified to the program. The first would be to have top leadership experts able to respond to the specific needs that ministers and governments identified, and also to support them to work as a team. I come out of a tradition of collective cabinet responsibility. It's very important to me, but I think also as a good principle of government that ministers can work as a team. Ministers would be asked to identify what their particular knowledge needs were, and then you can structure how you respond to that so that it's relevant. And there would also be a component of peer support from others who've been through the hard yards of being ministers and have learnt skills. And one would hope to buddy up new ministers with those with experience. Now, to do that successfully, you need to partner with other organisations which also have broad networks of former ministers and leaders, and there are a number of those around who could be tapped. So this term of the council, what we would hope with this well-developed concept is to be able to actually roll it out, to pilot it, and the key driver of this on our council, Simon Filipina, former Dutch diplomat and NGO development leader, has identified some prospects for that. So that's what we'd like to drive ahead in this term.
Thank you, Right Honourable Clark. Thank you for the insightful discussion. I would like to conclude by asking Ms. Marie Amy Burry and His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gurk to wrap up the discussion by sharing a word of advice for the second term of the Global Councils. Starting with Ms. Marie Amy, over to you.
Sure. So as I've said before, I think the keyword would be reach out, talk to each other in the different councils, see what synergies we can develop, collaborate, and of course, put impact first.
Dr. Tariq, over to you.
Should be in the SDGs. And I told her, don't forget education, don't forget education. She goes, of course it's going to be there. So Helen, thank you for pushing for education. I agree with everything Helen said. I agree with Marie, what she said in terms of having cross-council discussions, having policy change. These are the two main aspects. My advice is to commit to make an impact the right way, rather than coming to a summit or a conference ticking boxes. Each one of us, if we can have an agenda we believe in on everything that we've been working on, let's deliver that agenda. For instance, I want to have a new education system. I want to have a new ecosystem to the world when it comes to education, a new remote learning system, a global advocacy when it comes to education. So these are the most important things, and let's work throughout the councils and meet together to make that happen.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. That is wonderful. Thank you all for the inspiring lessons for our second term, and hopefully it will pave the way to our next round of open discussion with our new chairs. Thank you for your time. Now, moving forward to our open dialogue, this session will feature 17 chairpersons. Allow me to stress on the importance of time allocated for each chair. To our distinguished council chairs, what are your expectations for the second term of the Global Councils on SDGs? And in general, if you would like to share with us any highlights or remarks. We will start with His Excellency Suhail bin Mohammed Al Mazroui, UAE Minister of Energy and Infrastructure. He's the chairman of the Board of Directors of Ittihad Water and Electricity and the chairman of the Board of Directors of Emirates Petroleum Corporation. Besides holding other memberships, His Excellency will be serving us as chairperson to Global Council on SDG 11. Pleasure to have you here with us, Your Excellency. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Hanan and Your Excellencies. It's an honor to join this distinguished group and to serve under this great goal SDGs. SDG 11 is talking about the sustainable cities and communities. As you know, the more than 50% today of the people are living in urban cities, and we are having challenges doing that. So imagine in the next 10 years or less than 10 years, by 2030, 60% of the world population will be living in cities. There are things that we learned from the pandemic on providing services and the interruption of providing services. Definitely the world is not even when we are talking about urbanization. What we will be trying to do is to bring all of those stakeholders, to bring experience and get together into changing the landscape for the cities of the future. Fortunately, the digital world will be helping us and make the cities of the future more sustainable. We think in the UAE, the use of the fourth industrial revolution technologies should help us bring the cost down and achieve a better communication or transportation between different cities toward a more or less impactful environmentally less impactful ways of living. I am very excited that we should be working together to make a change. We need to share experiences, and we need to bring the private sector into this mix. I don't think governments alone, even setting the right laws, can manage that huge transfer of people into cities. We have issues today, as I mentioned, and we have to address them. And I look forward to work with everyone in achieving the goals of SDG 11. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We also look forward to working together on this important topic, and we wish you best of luck in the Council. Now, as we move forward, please welcome back Her Excellency Mona Al-Marri, Chairperson to SDG 5 Global Council. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Hanan. I think with SDG Goal 5, which I have served as a chairperson for this council in the previous term, I can say that the global councils really bring together diverse leaders from around the world to provide innovative solutions. And one of the most valuable elements of this work is building the right partnerships, including the 17th Council, as I'm glad to hear that everyone agrees on this. I've heard two of the members talking about the cross collaboration. And I'll give you an example that goes along my council. For instance, goal number 10, which is reduced inequalities, and goal number 4, which is quality education. They have common purpose with aligned outcomes in which we can collaborate as goal number 5. So for instance, empowering girls through education is a key and an important next step. So joining efforts as councils will truly achieve wonders and create maybe a greater impact. And again, I want to talk about the collaboration, because collaborations with great organizations such as the UN, OECD, IMF, the World Bank, and others is a great demonstration of how global partnerships should be key in achieving our future initiatives. We need to look beyond and expand our network and identify best individuals, entities, or organizations that would add value to our cause. In the first term, we limited as a council, as goal number 5 council, ourselves to a project or an initiative. Now I think we need to collaborate across the council and beyond. This will lead a wider outreach, as was mentioned, and a greater impact and a more sustainable outcomes. As we finalize the membership of the new council, I would like of course, first to thank all members of the previous council, and I really look forward to working with the new members to advance gender equality. And in order to achieve further success, we need to emphasize on diversity. More experiences and more backgrounds, I think this equals more value. So this is what I'm looking forward in the new council, hopefully in the new term.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We hope that this partnership will inspire advancing gender balance on all levels. Next, we turn to His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gurk, Chairperson to Global Council on SDG 4. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Hanan. With the last term on SDG 4, we came out with a program that we created and funded. So we came to a conclusion that let us have probably a system or a program in one of the countries and test whether it's going to work. And we identified remote teacher training platform should be created in a country. And what we did at the World Government Summit in 2019, I met with the Minister of Finance of Paraguay, and we shook hands on a $3 million program to have a proper ecosystem, which at the heart of that system was a teacher training learning platform. Now, as we embark on a new term of the Council, we face a radically different reality for global education than we did the previous term, a reality in which a reality that old solutions to even older problems are no longer viable, and where working in silos cannot dominate the path towards achieving the global goals, something that we spoke about this here and what we also speak about globally as well, on having global mechanisms and probably UN agencies and multilaterals working in silos where we have to actually unite and work towards a unified agenda. A central pillar of this agenda will be setting the stage for united global action to rewire education. That will be the aim. And I am also pleased to share that the output of this council's term will be Rewired, which is a global platform and a catalyst that Dubai Cares initiated in order to redefine education to ensure a future that is prosperous, sustainable, innovative, but also accessible to all. And it will ensure that education and learning are at the center of human development and investment. We have a lot of strategic partners, to be specific, 10. I don't want to name them, but mainly UN agencies and some multilaterals such as the World Economic Forum, the World Bank and the OECD, and some others such as the GPE. Now, with Rewired Summit, as I mentioned earlier, that we're going to co-host with Expo and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UAE between December 12th and 14th, end of this year, we hopefully will unlock new solutions and innovations by fostering collaboration between new and unlikely allies while bringing together existing platforms and partnerships to amplify their impact. This is the first of its kind global platform. It's a summit, so we would expect heads of state, we would expect ministers, heads of UN agency, multilaterals, global mechanisms, teachers, youth, academics, researchers, as well as for the first time, the private sector. The private sector was never included in any conference, any summit, any event when it comes to education globally. And that includes also the UN General Assembly that happens every year in New York in September. So we're bringing everyone under one roof. We're going to call on the international community to rethink and reimagine the future of education with a cross-sectoral emphasis to address education challenges with a deliberate approach to strategically engage the private sector as well. We all know governments cannot sustain education. Multilaterals, UN agencies, donors will not be able to do it. It's the private sector who has to take this equation on board. And as we bring together diverse participants from all the stakeholders that I have mentioned, we will have to identify new ideas and drive change and I hope that this council's agenda will be defined by enabling the meaningful co-creation of action. And I'm especially proud to share that a key element of Rewired is the open and collaborative approach that elevates youth voices as drivers of progress to ensure more relevant, agile, and resilient systems that are truly responsive to the local realities and global priorities. We have to ensure that SDG 4 is at the heart of all the SDGs. Without education, humanity will not prosper. And I come back with what Marie mentioned and Munal Mari just mentioned earlier, that we have to insist and we have to force ourselves as councils to speak to each other, to work on an approach that connects and unifies our mandates and see where those will overlap. This is in a nutshell. The summit will be focusing on 3 key areas. Day 1 will be youth skills and the future of work. Day 2, innovation in education. Day 3, education financing. And what we want to do, we want to take all the topics, all the findings, all the speakers' input from everything got to do with education in SDG 4, put it in a dossier, give it back to the UN, and then start hopefully the first ever global agenda on education. So this council, the SDG 4 Council, will work towards making that first agenda of education and unifying the sector through where we are talking today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Gurk. Best of luck in reshaping the education approach in the upcoming term. Once again, please welcome back Right Honorable Helen Clark, Chairperson to Global Council on SDG 16. Over to you.
Yes, I think where I could usefully is about the interrelationships between the goals, because listening to Mona on gender equality, we know that we need a lot of things to go right in society and in social and economic policy to achieve that. So many of the other goals come into play to really advance the gender equality goal. I'm thinking, for example, of the critical importance of keeping girls in school, and that then links into what His Excellency was just speaking about on the education goal. Now, one thing we know from COVID-19 is that UNESCO estimated that 11 million girls would never return to school after the lockdowns in those months of last year, around March, April, May, when many schools just stopped altogether. And some schools, by the way, have never gone back. I know of countries who have never opened their schools again since the pandemic. There's so much lost opportunity there. But the pandemic has brought impoverishment to so many millions of people, tens of millions of people around the world. And one of the consequences of that is a poor family may not be able to prioritize children's education. And unfortunately, a choice is often made between the girls and the boys. So it's the girls who don't go back to school and then face the prospect of a very early marriage at puberty and seeing their hopes for a better future go. So one's always thinking, what are the cross connections here between these goals? Similarly, the health goal is so relevant to gender equality, for women to be able to have particularly choice over their fertility and who they marry, if they marry, when they marry, the number of children they have, and so on. Water and sanitation goal has enormous implications for gender equality, because if there isn't easy access to water, it's the women and girls who do the carrying of it, and it's very burdensome. If there isn't sanitation in the home, but rather resort to communal toilets, women and girls are put at considerable risk of attack when they must go out at night. So just always recognizing these interconnections between the SDGs and reinforcing the work we each do, I think, will be very important.
Thank you, Right Honorable Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, Chairperson of Global Council on SDG 1, is the Executive Director at the International Monetary Fund, and a Special Envoy on financing the 2030 Agenda. Dr. Mahmoud, sorry you missed the panel discussion. Over to you now.
No, thank you so much, and apologies for the connection challenge that I had earlier. I hope that you are hearing me well now. Let me build on what I just heard, and given the strong dependence of SDG 1 on the efforts and outcomes of the rest of the SDGs, I think I'll be very much repeating what Their Excellency just mentioned in their approach. And I think, given that I missed the first panel, let me just, because I heard what Her Excellency Mary mentioned, I think when she spoke about elements of success by being inclusive, I think she spoke in a great way for the rest of us as well. The issue of the composition of the council to be gender balanced, to have different geographic representations adequately there, to have different expertise from policy to academic to research. It's very much important. It was important in the first round, and it's equally important this time round. And our work in dealing with extreme poverty, we need to continue depending on data and evidence. So colleagues who just mentioned issues related to cross-cutting themes, data and evidence, we cannot do our work without that. Then the issues, another cross-cutting issue is dependent on finance, be it public, private, external, or domestic. It's another area that we are focused on, and based on that, we're selecting the members, the new members. The third is basically implementation, not just at the national level, but at the, call it, the last mile delivery at the local level, where the delivery matters the most, and the capacity always have this kind of a challenge. So this is basically what we're intending to do, building on, I would say, the success of the operations. Of course, COVID-19 confronted all of us, and unfortunately, we are now, as we were back in 2015. What we gained during the last few years before COVID, we lost in few weeks by adding more than 120 million people to extreme poverty. This is again telling us two things. Again, the dependence of the SDGs on each other. If we're doing better in SDG 3, where my good brother Mohammed is responsible, we would have been talking about a completely different trajectory for achieving SDG 1. So this issue of independence of the different elements, and I like always to present it as a kind of a pyramid within a framework of partnership based on governance, and we need to invest in human development, we need to invest in human capital, social development, infrastructure. If we do that all right, we will be getting extreme poverty right, we'll be getting the inequality right. Those two critical SDGs, SDG 1 and SDG 10 on inequality. Now, of course, we cannot really disassociate ourselves from what's happening at the national level and the global level. And I like to share something that is not just relevant to SDG 1, but perhaps to other councils. Two things are happening. This is the common agenda that was just released by the Secretary General, and I take from it two things. The great divergence that we are all facing globally and because of inequality nationally. And the other thing, it's a matter of choice. And he's telling us it's very much a choice between two Bs. The B of breakthrough, we can still do it, or the B of breakdown of the whole system. It's a very critical juncture in our activities. Hence, I think in all of the SDG councils, and in particular SDG 1, that unfortunately, if we are going to go through the trajectory now, we are going to be left by more than 700 million people suffering from extreme poverty, as bad as we were in 2015. And compared to the MDGs, MDG 1, you remember we had a success of having extreme poverty then. Now, and Madam Clark was a good witness of this kind of process, and she did great job in monitoring that in the acceleration agenda. And I would say here that we need to have this acceleration, not at the last 1,000 days as the former SG Ban Ki-moon encouraged us to do, and it was a good thing. I think the acceleration, given the kind of severity we have now, is going to be, it should be realized now. It's great to have the United Arab Emirates hosting us with the excellent Secretariat support, and with this great recognition of what should be done at localized level. You have excellent job.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud. So my key takeaway.
Regional and global. Sorry, I took more time, but I was trying to compensate for what I missed in the first time.
So governance, human capital, social development, infrastructure. Thank you so much.
Investment in them all. Yes, indeed.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our new chairperson to Global Council on SDG 3, Dr. Mohammed Ali Patey. He is the Julio Frank Professor of the Practice of Public Health Leadership at Harvard. Dr. Patey previously was the Minister of State for Health in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Pleasure to have you here, Dr. Patey. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Excellencies and distinguished participants. It is my great honor to chair the Global Council on the SDG 3 in its second term as part of the United Arab Emirates SDGs in Action Initiative and the UN Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. I'm also pleased that Dr. Susanna Jacob, the Deputy Director General of the World Health Organization, has agreed to serve with me as co-chair of the SDG 3 Council. Our council, in its proposed membership, has a panel of distinguished experts, diverse in its constitution, who are innovators, entrepreneurs, educators, practitioners, and a youth member who are all committed to advancing the SDG 3s. In the first term of the SDG 3 Council, it developed a platform under the leadership of Dr. Judy Kuriansky and Dr. Sharia Khalid Erickson called Health in Your Hands, appropriately named to harness innovations to reach those who are left furthest behind, and to put health in the hands of communities. That initiative offers an opportunity to accelerate transformations of health systems in multiple ways, especially considering our pandemic experience. I'm therefore very excited to work with the Global Council now in its second term to expand the scope and reach of those innovations which will shape the future of global health and regain the pace of progress towards achieving the SDG 3 goals, as well as all the other SDGs. We see SDG 3 as one that is central to all the other SDGs as well. I think Dr. Mahmoud and Helen and others have also alluded to that. The SDGs are all interconnected. In the upcoming council term, we will further develop the platform that existed during the first term, expanding the scope and the scale of the innovations, evaluating progress, encouraging course corrections, and promoting policy, regulatory, and financial enablers for their adoption at scale. We will do this in close collaboration with the WHO and others, and in line with the SDG 3 Global Action Plan. We expect to share insights and lessons learned from our work through a white paper at the end of our council. From now until January 2022, when we officially launch the work plans of the council, we will convene members of our council, develop our work plans, and identify opportunities for synergy with the other councils. We will measure our success by the opportunities we create to hasten development and expansion of the reach and depth of the innovations to increase access and quality of health services, especially for those who are left behind. I encourage you all to follow the progress of our work, as well as the Health in Your Hands initiative via its website, healthinyourhands.co/. I look forward to working with all of you in the other global councils, as together we can achieve a lot together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patey, and we wish you very best in the council health in your hands. Next, please welcome again Ms. Mary Amy Burry, Chairperson to the Finance Advisory Board. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So as I said before, the SDG Finance Advisory Board will consist of a panel of experts that will assist the other SDG councils to design, implement, and as case may be, scale up the initiatives that they have chosen to launch. So what we want is to offer the other SDG councils the opportunity to tap into the knowledge and the networks of the finance advisory board members, so that we can help mobilize funds of all kinds and also maximize the targeted outcome. So we've already started working in the past term with the SDG 3 Council on the initiative that has just been described, Health in Your Hand. And of course, we'll continue to do this work. And in fact, as I'm speaking, Dr. Shari Khalid Eriksen is on the ground in East Africa, due diligencing some of those ventures and trying to scope out what are the potential co-financing partners for those ventures. So our council is in the process, in fact, of designing a screening tool to identify amongst the high number of ventures identified by the platform, which are the 5 to 10 most promising health ventures from a risk-return impact perspective. So the ones that are most likely to attract investors, in particular private investors. So this is example for the SDG Council, SDG 3 Council collaboration. But of course, generally speaking, for any initiative that is submitted by any of the other SDG councils, our group proposes to assess their financing needs and to try to make recommendation and advice in terms of identifying potential funding sources, so from technical assistance budget or company CSR budget or else, helping them identify relevant precedents in the market to build on what's already been done elsewhere in order to take advantage of existing knowledge. We'll also try to point to several relevant existing collaborative initiatives that may provide support to this project proposed by the given council, and of course, when we can, introduce to certain investors. So to do that, of course, we need to have experts in different areas, a diverse group of experts, of course, from different geographies, different backgrounds. And we are extremely honored to have His Excellency Sultan Al-Shamsi as Vice Chair of the Finance Advisory Board, and also Dr. Mohamed Ali-Ami, who is Director of Development Effectiveness Department in the Islamic Development Bank, and many others are in the process of joining the board. So please reach out to us. We're very keen to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria-Amy. Indeed, financing the SDGs is crucial to their implementation. Now, please welcome Ibrahim Al-Zarbi, Chairperson of the Global Council on SDG 13. Ibrahim is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Majid Al-Fatim Holding, where he oversees the group-wide sustainability strategy. Over to you, Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, everyone, and good afternoon, good evening to colleagues in the United Arab Emirates and across the world. There is no doubt that the SDGs have become a powerful common language for all nations, creating a common framework for collaboration to promote prosperity while protecting our planet. I believe that the Global Councils on SDGs are unique examples of the commitment of both of all stakeholders and dedication to championing the cause and creating advocates for the implementation of the SDGs at the national and global level. Now, each day we see incidents that raise the alarm about the impact of climate change on our lives. We know what is truly possible when governments, business, academics, and citizens collaborate, and the global pandemic reminds us of this every single day. If the world's response to the global pandemic has taught me personally anything, it is that we really can achieve whatever we put our minds to when we work together. I hope that this way of working is now here to stay and not to go, and as we look to tackle the climate crisis, caring for each other and collaborating together has never been more vital for our success. With 2030 less than a decade away, the climate crisis will become a real emergency if we don't act immediately, now and together. I am honored and humbled to chair the Global Council on SDG 13 Climate Action, as well as we marshal our efforts from around the world to action and to save our planet and sustain its livability. The Council's various initiatives and success stories truly showcase the impact it drove throughout the past 3 years, and it will continue as well, inshallah. But achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is a long journey, as you may know, and will require significant shifts, collaborations, reinventing operations while innovating through new partnerships to accelerate results. Once again, I'm extremely grateful for the UAE leadership's confidence in me, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to help drive the global sustainability agenda. I would like to leave you all with a sentence that I've been using a lot recently, and I think it could be, and it will be a headline for the coming 3 years. This sustainability revolution is unstoppable, and no company will be left unchanged. Those that act quickest will be those that end up leading. Thank you very much, and I wish you all to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zerbi. That was beautiful. And it's a pleasure having you with us in the Council.
Thank you very much.
Now we have the chairperson of the Global Council on SDG 17, Dr. Tatiana Tiblova, who is the head of division policy coherence for SDGs, senior counselor for gender equality, justice and inclusiveness at the OECD. Dr. Tiblova leads the OECD work on equal access to justice and gender equality in public life. Over to you, Dr. Tatiana.
Thank you, Hannah. And Excellencies, esteemed Council chairs, ladies and gentlemen, good time of the day to all of you. It is a great pleasure for me to join you here today. And also, I'm most honored to continue the OECD engagement in leading the Global Council on SDG 17 partnerships for the goals during the second term, also within the framework of the MENA OECD governance program. I'm also delighted to be accompanied on this journey by the Council's Vice Chair, Her Excellency Kaula Al-Meheiri, Vice President of Strategy and Government Communication at Dubai Water and Electricity Authority. Here, I'd like to commend the leadership of the United Arab Emirates initiative, and indeed the Global Councils can provide a unique platform for peer learning and innovation in SDG implementation. And in particular, we should be using this platform to guide the sustainable recovery from COVID-19, with the SDGs serving as a roadmap for building forward better. And as already mentioned by many before my intervention, and what we see also in our work at the OECD, is that in many countries, the institutionalization, the implementation of the SDGs not only has been slow, but also has been put further behind, also in the context of the current pandemic. And here we see that the SDG 17 as a key means of implementation can help speed up process of implementing all of the goals. And we also see that policy coherence for sustainable development, what we call PCSD, is a particularly important lever for success, as it allows to both harness different synergies across the goals, but also different policy objectives, and try to avoid costly trade-offs, both at home and abroad. And this will be critical to drive change, but also to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. And we see that there are a number of ways in which the SDG 17 Council can contribute to the achievement of these objectives. Let me highlight just a few here. First is by promoting integrated and coherent solutions to global challenges, and ensuring that short-term recovery measures do not undermine long-term sustainability commitments, such as, for instance, Paris Climate Agreement. Second is also by pinpointing areas where innovative solutions can accelerate progress, but also can have greatest impact, not only domestically in our own countries, but also abroad in other countries, particularly in developing countries. And the work that the OECD is developing on transboundary policy impacts can facilitate this reflection. Next is also by building civil service capacity for the SDGs to ensure that governments are equipped for to implement the SDGs, but also with the fit for purpose skill. And right, Honorable Helen Clark was talking already about the importance of developing the right skills at the leadership level. And here we would like to emphasize the civil service skills in this regard. And finally, the Council can be contributing by building partnerships and tools to facilitate peer learning and policy dialogue. And I'd like to highlight a tool that we've been developing also during the previous term of the Council, an online observatory for the PCSD and SDG governance to support this work, which can also provide an interactive space where practitioners, including members of different councils, can come together to share experiences. So with all of this, we have a lot of work ahead of us, and these are challenging times, so we don't have a lot of time to spare. Over the coming months, we'll be finalizing the membership of the councils, also operationalizing the work program and identifying possible synergies with all other councils, as was called by, I believe, all other chairpersons before me. So to conclude, let me stress again that we feel that the councils can play real potential to make an important difference in the implementation of the SDGs, and we look forward to working together with all of you in making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tatiana, and we wish you best of luck in finalizing the council and the program. Before moving to the next speaker, I would like to highlight that the first term of the Global Councils on SDGs has focused on a singular SDG approach. The following speakers, who I'll be introducing next, will reshape the direction of the Global Councils through a Nexus model approach, which includes 2 or more SDGs. It is my honor to introduce the first of the Nexus Model Councils in this term, Ms. Hana Al-Rustumani, the Group Chief Executive Officer of First Abu Dhabi Bank. Ms. Al-Rustumani was named Group CEO of FAB in January 2021. In addition to her role, she is a member of Mastercard Advisory as well as the IMD Foundation Board. Welcome, Ms. Al-Rustumani. The floor is yours.
Joining you today. And it's very interesting to hear about the term 1 of SDG and the plans for the second term. Really, I can see a huge platform of opportunity in terms of learnings and collaboration and partnerships, especially that some of you have raised earlier about private sector and government sector coming together, you know, and collaborating to push on those agendas that are important globally. Just to tell you, you know, from a background in the financial sector, I've been, you know, for more than 2 decades in the banking industry, and I have seen how the corporate world has evolved to understanding and the approach to sustainability. And paving the way, you know, in terms of how do we interact with our clients, whether corporate institutions or consumers, in terms of sustainability. We have taken firm steps towards, you know, the ESG. And it starts with a little bit on the governance side, putting in the right policies, framework, and consistently rising to the challenges we see ahead. Just to, you know, we've been talking about this for quite some time within the bank and within the banking industry. You know, we've issued our first green bond in 2017. We've been MSCI ESG rating upgraded to AA in 2021. So there are some solid steps that we have taken forward in terms of the ESG and, you know, how do we integrate it within the banking or the financial industry, and how we build that collaboration with our clients moving forward. We have made commitments in terms of the national and the global sustainability ambitions and agenda, looking at what the UAE energy strategy in terms of 2050, the Abu Dhabi vision, and of course, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You know, we are pushing strong to be an enabler to a low carbon, climate resilient and circular economy by partnering with our stakeholders in alignment with the UAE agenda to reduce carbon footprint by 25% in 2030. Financial services to be available to all members in the society, and to be a resource efficient and zero waste company as we move forward. And of course, it starts internally, but as I said, it really impacts, of course, moving forward with our clients in terms of corporates and institution, and even on the consumer side. Because this is where we focus on building that culture and education, and really taking step by step with our clients to focus more on funding sustainable projects and taking that forward. For us, it's really important that it starts within the UAE, but of course with our presence and being, operating worldwide. We have 16 international locations, and this is where we believe we can influence and move that agenda, not only in the UAE, but across the globe. Really excited to be, on this forum, and to have access to all this knowledge and have learned more about the learnings and initiatives, and to really collaborate with everybody here to push together the agenda, because I truly believe it's all about partnership with the private sector and the government sector and the policymakers to, reach our goals in terms of SDG on affordable and clean energy. So thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Rostomani. The role of finance and banking is essential for acceleration of the SDGs. Next, we have Ms. Isabel Bilhol. She's the Chief Executive Officer and Trustee of the Emirates Literature Foundation. Driven by her passion towards literature and education, Ms. Bilhol co-founded Majrudi's bookshop chain in 1975. Greetings and lovely having you here with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Hanan, and thank you to everyone who's organized the most wonderful launch, listening to everyone, hearing the passion and the ideas that are generated by all the councils. It's absolutely brilliant. So in my capacity as the CEO and trustee of the Emirates Literature Foundation, it is my honor to chair a council that will be focused on SDG 4 quality education. I'm profoundly grateful for this opportunity to work with a group of inspirational people who have kindly agreed to become council members and will bring their passion and expertise to achieve our council's long-term goals. Quality education is the right of every child, and there is much to be done to achieve this. Our focus will be the Reading for Pleasure project and what effects this can have on children in their school years and beyond. Within this framework, our council will also work on 2 additional SDGs, reduced inequalities and partnerships, to develop a model that can be used as a blueprint in other countries. We have a chance to enhance educational practices by proving the profound benefits there are to reading regularly outside of textbooks. For children, books can provide both a mirror and a window on the world, an understanding of themselves and of others, whilst feeding their imagination and creativity. We want children to become lifelong learners who are able to think critically and inventively, manage their emotions and impulses, and make smart decisions. Children who are proficient readers by the end of the 3rd grade are more likely to graduate from high school and to be economically successful in adulthood. I ask, though, how many children don't achieve that level and why? Our focus, therefore, will be on how to turn children into avid readers. There has been much research over the last 40 years as this issue has become a key concern for educators globally. It seems so simple. Of course, students should learn to read. That's been understood for generations. No one is going to argue against the importance of student literacy. But what are the key factors that are known to encourage children's love of reading and books? Ideally, a child should grow up in a home where books are available, where parents take time every day to read to their child from the very beginning. That child will associate books and reading with warmth, love, and pleasurable experience. That child will have an increased vocabulary, and knowledge gained from books and be more confident. Contrast that with the child whose first experience of books is when he or she arrives at school and textbooks are handed out, with the focus being mainly on the method of learning to read, deciphering letters being tested. The Reading for Pleasure project involves parents, teachers, and students, providing a wide variety of books in Arabic and English, webinars with authors, and resource packs so that students and teachers can enjoy expanding stories through art, drama, and other subjects. Importantly, there is no testing element. It is about enjoyment. Finally, here are some good reasons why reading is so important to student success. Self-esteem, improved concentration, critical and analytical thinking skills, stronger memory skills, expanded vocabulary. Reading reduces stress, lowers blood pressure and heart rate, alleviates depression symptoms, and increases empathy. What is there not to love about reading? Thank you all for allowing me to share our Council's expectations in the years ahead. We must continue on our mission until every child is given a quality education and a chance to develop a lifelong love of reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belhol, and we wish you best of luck in the initiative Reading for Pleasure.
Thank you.
Please welcome Dr. Manal Taryam. She is the Chief Executive Officer and Board Member of Noor Dubai Foundation. Under her leadership, Noor Dubai contributed to helping over 27 million individuals around the world to eradicate blinding disease. Great having you here in this discussion, Dr. Manal. Passing it to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Hanan. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to be part of this great initiative and to highlight the role of NGOs in driving the implementation of SDGs in the healthcare sector and its impact on an economic and social level. As a foundation, Noor Dubai primarily focuses on preventing blindness. Its mission is to contribute to the improvement of the well-being and the socioeconomic status of people through sustainable control of major causes of avoidable blindness by collaborating and partnering with governments and other NGOs. Driven by our strategic objectives, we have moved towards more comprehensive and long-term programs, which not only include treatment of an individual in need, but also human resource development to empower the local community and infrastructure improvement to ensure more sustainable impact. Particularly in the field of healthcare, it is crucial that we integrate solutions into the public health system to ensure continuity of all efforts. For this reason, we are pleased to share with you Noor Dubai's comprehensive, sustainable, and integrated eye care program in the state of Katsina, northern Nigeria, which was launched in 2019 and will continue until 2023. As per the latest estimates, there are around 4 million people who suffer from blindness and visual impairment in Nigeria. In addition to that, there is an urgent need of services and eye health resources in many of the states. In Katsina alone, there's an estimate of 45,000 persons who are in immediate need for cataract surgery, while there are only 5 licensed ophthalmologists who are practicing in only 2 hospitals, catering to over 9 million of the population. The Noor Dubai program was designed to integrate into public health strategies and was structured around sustainability, complemented by capacity building of humans, material and infrastructure resources. The program aims to improve the quality of life and the socioeconomic status of the people of Katsina, and will contribute to reducing blindness and visual impairment in the state by around 40%. Back in July, and during the 75th session of the United Nations on Accelerating Action for SDGs, it was acknowledged that eye care services as part of the universal health coverage are relevant to achieving SDG goal number 3, noting that vision loss leads to an increased risk of mortality and mental health disorders. Furthermore, access to eye health care is essential to achieving SDG 4, as it has a positive impact on school enrollment and education. The United Nations resolution suggested the use of the World Health Assembly resolution 73.4 indicators for monitoring the SDGs. These indicators are effective coverage of refractive errors and effective coverage of cataract surgery. Therefore, Dubai SDG Global Council Program objectives are designed to accelerate achievements in SDG 3 through cataract and refractive error services with interlinkage to SDG 4, 5, and 1. The program aims to raise the effective cataract surgery coverage in Katsina by 30%, while including a gender-neutral manner within 4 years. In addition to that, it aims to improve refractive error services among school children by achieving at least 70% effective refractive error coverages among school students within 2 years. Over the next few weeks, our team will work on recruiting members to the council across several sectors and to arrange meetings with other council chairpersons to explore collaboration opportunities and synergy between the councils. We will also finalize a detailed work program to launch at the Expo 2020 Dubai's Global Goals Thematic Week. We look forward to learning more about the councils and their initiatives, and I invite chairpersons to engage with me directly to explore ways to amplify the implementation of the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Manal. Indeed, healthcare is essential to promote well-being. Next, we have Dr. Sonia bin Jaafar. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation for Education, one of the largest privately funded philanthropic education foundations in the region. Over to you, Dr. Sonia.
Thank you. In my capacity as CEO of the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation for Education, it's my honor to take up the appointment as Global Council Chairperson. Our work comes at a critical time. At the foundation, we work towards making a positive direct contribution to Sustainable Development Goals 4, 8, and 17. We strive to work in partnership with those who share our values and goals related to education for better livelihoods. As with everyone, we have had some successes and we've faced some challenges delivering on the commitments to the SDGs. More recently, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the challenges we face and demanded greater innovation and new ways of thinking from all of us. I'm grateful to be part of this network where I will learn from and help find solutions with my esteemed colleagues. I hope to not only share experiences and best practices, but discuss practical solutions to overcoming barriers to implementing the SDG agenda, specifically applying the Nexus model approach. I'm excited about this opportunity because in this decade of action, we are aware of the realities of others. We are aware that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. We will need to be smart in applying solutions that fit the local and global challenges. I'm especially excited to offer our insights from the vantage point of the location where Expo 2020 will soon be launching on a theme of sustainability. Sustainability is key in our thinking on education because it underlines the need to promote education that generates a spirit of entrepreneurship rather than survival. We're seeking innovative, localized, and contextualized solutions to tackling the diverse issues. As an outcome of our work together, I anticipate that my own perspective will evolve and be positively influenced so that I may do better in my community, and my community might do better in the region and global spaces. I applaud those who have served this purpose before me. I'm acutely aware of the fact that the Global Councils on SDGs took root in the UAE, where we as the foundation and the administrators of the Abdulaziz Al Ghurair Refugee Education Fund have managed to co-create over 45 partnerships that help over 60,000 underserved Emirati and Arab youth across 22 countries in the Middle East and North African region. We have a track record and willingness to learn to improve. This was achieved because our collaborations are authentic and rooted in shared values and needs. We managed to bring public and private sector actors to the same table with educational institutions to create a shared platform, not only to educate youth, but to give them a better chance to get jobs. But not just any jobs, the right jobs that matter for the future, that are in line with sustainable development. This is critically important at a time when the majority of the people in our region are under 25 and are already worrying about how they will confront their destinies. We persevere with a belief that education is the linchpin of a successful sustainable development agenda. We challenged ourselves at the foundation to support 200,000 Emirati and Arab youth become ready for higher education and work, providing pathways to sustainable and better livelihoods. And we are doing this by leveraging knowledge and technology partnerships in the region. As a private philanthropy, this is the Abdullah Al Huwair family legacy, as inspired by the United Arab Emirates founding father, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, who promoted a vision where it is incumbent on us to prepare ourselves and our children for a world that is very different from what we know. To do that, we need those who put service to others above themselves, who have empathy and know that the SDGs are about assuring that we do have international networks engaging in joint work so that everyone, everywhere, can find their way out of poverty, have clean water, energy, peace, and especially a chance to learn and grow and be something greater. As I accept this honor, I commit to being one of those who collaborate beyond our own circles for the greater good. I accept the invitations from my co-panelists. Please count on me to be present and to be active in cultivating solutions to achieve the SDGs with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia. And we too are excited about this partnership and we welcome you to the councils. Ladies and gentlemen, energy is playing a great role in achieving the SDGs. Mr. Luc Remont is the Executive Vice President, International Operation at Schneider Electric. Mr. Remont has more than 27 years of experience in the energy field through the different positions that he has held within the French government. Mr. Remont, the floor is yours.
Very much, Hanan. It's my honor to chair a Global Council on Sustainable Development Goals, particularly focused on energy. At Schneider Electric, where I run international operations, we've prioritized sustainability for more than 2 decades, and I'm honored to be part of a group of people and organizations that have put sustainable development at the top of their agenda. I particularly thank and welcome my Vice Chair, Dr. Nawal Al-Hosani, for the great work that we are going to do together. Energy is now at the crossroads of many centuries for sustainable development and contributing to several SDGs. We are facing the historical challenge of global warming and have at the same time more people needing access to clean and affordable energy. As an engineer, of course, I also believe that innovation and technology can help us face this challenge. So that's why I will propose to the Council to focus on access to energy as the topic which is the most important for the vast part of 1 billion people who have not yet proper access to energy according to the IEA. They are primarily based in the emerging world, South America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. And clearly the pandemic has made the situation worse. Electricity is fundamental to every facet on how we live, from how we learn and live at home to issues such as access to medicine and healthcare. And of course, this was absolutely critical during the pandemic phase. It's also proven that proper access to energy is key to a number of fundamental development issues such as security, climate change, food production, and strengthening economies whilst protecting ecosystems. Increased access to electricity improves education, entertainment, health, comfort, protection, and productivity. That's for all these reasons that at Schneider Electric, we consider access to energy as a fundamental human right that accelerates social and economic development. Now we are far from it. For example, Africa is hungry for energy with more than 600 million people without access to energy. Africa currently accounts for 1/6 of the world's population. However, it generates only 4% of the world's electricity. So the following elements are the key topics that we need to tackle in order to face this challenge of access to energy for everyone. First one is collaboration. It's key to achieve proper access to energy for every person on the planet. The best programs involve local stakeholders, including suppliers, residents, customers, governments, financial institutions, and NGOs to bring and sustain safe, clean electricity to communities. These collaborative efforts include business models for electrification via off-grid solutions and prosumer models, impact investment fund for innovative local energy entrepreneurship and training to address local skill shortage. Innovation is the second topic. The new energy model is changing and will not only be cleaner, but more economically rational in the future. And of course, solar PV and wind coming everywhere is bringing a great chance, but it's just at its infancy. We have many questions to tackle and to help this development of access to energy. How can we ensure the technologies are sustainable? Can they be scaled? How can we get governments to support such initiatives? How can we encourage private sector to innovate? How can we develop new financing mechanisms? How do we use access to energy as a platform for further development? These are all the questions I would like the Council to answer and to work on over the next coming years. And my hope that we will come up with a roadmap to make access to energy possible anywhere in the world. And I have to say that I'm very excited by this perspective, and you can count on my commitment to do my very best with my Council members so that we bring really a new step for access to energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon, and thank you for the commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have Dr. Elizabeth Cousins. She is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the UN Foundation. Dr. Cousins has been at the forefront of global policy making and innovation for over 20 years. Over to you, Dr. Cousins.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm very honored to be asked to chair a Global Council on the Sustainable Development Goals, and honored as well to have as my vice chair, Dr. Mariam Al-Mahmoud. The UAE has been such a leader on the SDGs going back even before they were negotiated, and so it's just an incredible privilege to be part of this effort. As we look to the 9 years left in the decade of action, we all need to have ringing in our ears Minister Reem's words from earlier today, that there is no time to lose. My vice chair and I propose focusing our Global Council on food system innovation and climate change, a nexus of issues we think can play a key role in accelerating the economic, social, and environmental transformations needed in this decade of action to achieve the SDGs. Food security, the reliable access to safe, affordable, sustainable, and nutritious food is inextricably linked to a predictable climate and healthy ecosystems. Climate change and the associated severe weather, droughts, fires, diseases we see all around us are already threatening the production of food around the world. And unless we act decisively, these problems will worsen, and the poorest and most vulnerable will suffer disproportionately. At the same time, a third of global emissions come from the production, distribution, and consumption of food around the world. And yet the food-climate connection is often overlooked. So transforming the agriculture and food sector is thus indispensable to tackling climate change, addressing hunger and nutrition, building communities, providing decent jobs, and we need innovations and more research and development to harness that potential. So food system innovation in areas like improved soil management, reduction of food loss and waste, precision agriculture, enhanced livestock management, all of that has incredible potential, including to make farmers and their farms so much more resilient to climate impacts. The economic and social benefits of research and development are substantial. A recent study found that every dollar invested in international agricultural R&D could yield a $10 return. And fortunately, that is increasingly recognized, including in initiatives like a recent initiative launched by the UAE in the United States, something called the Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate, or initiatives like the One CGIAR initiative, another powerful effort that unites research centers across the Global South to deliver agricultural innovation faster. There's obviously a great deal going on in this space, and we're eager to shape our work in this council in a way that connects with partners, that can be a force multiplier, that adds visibility and momentum to the most promising efforts. I'm so pleased also to hear all the incredible leadership from other council leaders over the course of this session, the emphasis on inclusion and diversity, a principle that we're committed to having guide our work in this council. Very gratifying to hear such a strategic emphasis on young people across so many of the councils. It's an agenda that we at the UN Foundation happen to have been working on for years and feel and agree is so important. And finally, just to conclude, I'm excited by the emphasis you've put in this generation of the council's work on working at the nexus of SDGs. Of course, that is what the SDGs are all about. They're essentially a nexus framework. So we're very eager to explore ways to work in our council with other councils and their members. And again, just want to thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to sharing our plans with you as they evolve over the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cousins, and pleasure having you with us in the Global Councils. We are also eager to work with you. I would like to now introduce Mr. Mohammed Al-Hashimi, the Deputy Group General Counsel and Company Secretary at DP World. He also leads the group Sustainability and Impact team and has achieved great success in increasing DP World's impact and engagement across a variety of SDG-related issues. Passing it to you, Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Hanan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and colleagues. Thank you for bringing us all together in one room, albeit digitally, to discuss how we can together work to protect people and planet. As an enabler for global trade, DP World embraces its responsibility to achieve the SDGs. We are mindful that the 2020-2030 decade is the decade of action, and as such, we are committed to enabling smarter trade to create a better future for everyone. And with this crucial accelerator period, we believe it can get us closer to ensuring a more sustainable and inclusive future for all. As we inch towards the end of 2021, it is difficult to ignore the challenges the world is facing. From pandemics to climate disasters, we have become aware more and more each day of the necessity for change, especially in re-evaluating our relationship with nature and, more importantly, with each other. The DP World, Our Future sustainability strategy is not only aligned with the SDGs, but takes a data and target-driven approach to propel continuous progress. The strategy allows us to work in a responsible way that prioritizes sustainability and impact on the people, communities, and environment in which we operate. Global trade has been an enormous force for good in recent decades. And using new smart technologies, we continue to make our operations more sustainable through cutting energy and resource use and creating a fairer and more connected planet. Our strategy is designed to deliver responsible operations, and at the same time, it prepares us for a radical shift in how business in general and logistics in particular respond to the great challenges of climate change, education, and social inequality. Guided by SDG 17 on partnerships, DP World has also developed a unique ecosystem of partners aligned with our legacy pillars: oceans, women, and education. And through these partnerships with grassroots, NGOs, and governments, we actively support girls' education, wildlife conservation, and the protection of biodiversity. This also means that we support other key SDG targets, including SDG 4 around quality education, SDG 5 on gender equality, SDGs 13, 14, and 15 around climate, oceans, and conservation, to name only a few. It is in the spirit and action that we deeply appreciate and value the importance of fostering global alliances. And our partnership with Expo 2020 Dubai is yet another demonstration of our commitment to Dubai's mission and to SDG 17. Our pavilion will form an excellent example of partners coming together to showcase thought leadership and best-in-class solutions and innovations. I do hope that you all have the opportunity to visit our pavilion at Expo 2020 soon. We place incredible value on network-led global cooperation. We know that we cannot act alone, and that is why we are mobilizing our strategic partners to make a global appeal to protect our planet from the dangers posed by climate change, biodiversity loss caused by the rapid extinction of species, and the illegal trafficking of wild fauna and flora. We are all responsible for the survival and the well-being of our planet. I therefore implore my fellow participants to join us and be not only the voice in this global appeal of hope, but also to ask governments and world leaders to prioritize biodiversity, to advocate for scalable and shareable solutions, to promote local conservation schemes, and to set the path right in their post-COVID plans. We must act swiftly and together to protect people and planet for the future of generations to come. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Hashimi. We're glad to know that oceans, women, and education is at the top of your priorities.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Last but not least, we would love to conclude this session by hearing from Mr. Clint Brown, who is the Director of Product Engineering at ISRI. Driven by his passion towards geospatial information systems, he aspires to make a difference in our world by enabling people to effectively apply GIS tools and share their inspiring stories. Over to you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here today. It's been an amazing morning for me, for many of you, afternoon and evening, but I'm quite humbled and honored to be a part of this committee. I think in many ways my work is quite different from many of you. I work with a technology team. I manage about 750 people of our development team that comprises about 1,500 to 2,000 people globally. Since 1983, I've been working on the implementation of GIS and geospatial tools. Those tools have grown from those early days, there were 12 customer sites. Now there are over 350,000 worldwide. And one of the interesting and kind of unique things about GIS is people and organizations everywhere collect data across all fields of human endeavor, all activities. And they build that information and have been building this collection of information that now covers the entire planet. It's a very interesting notion that these layers of information, in fact, 45 million layers of information have been built that represent every activity that cover all SDGs. And it's a very interesting time. Many of you are familiar with the coronavirus dashboard published by Johns Hopkins at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. By the end of 2020, that particular application had received 2 trillion hits. It's very interesting. People went back and revisited and kind of tracked progress with those things. That pattern of pulling information together from many organizations and using maps as a way to communicate status and to analyze what's going on became a pattern that's really transforming GIS. And in many ways, that community aspect of what's going on is a new pattern for how GIS will be deployed. And this fits the Sustainable Development Goals in an incredible way. You know, it's kind of interesting sometimes when I think about what do we do about the SDGs. First of all, what the UAE team and Dubai have done is very impressive and honorable. I think the fact that all of you and your peers that came before you have made the decision to just act now and to be moving and to try to make progress on all of these goals. The idea of this Nexus initiative and those types of initiatives are very important to what's going on. And in many ways, this isn't about one organization. This is about all organizations and all people everywhere. And I really have to applaud this Nexus partnership approach that was being discussed today. I really like that. I look forward to working with all of you. I think that GIS has a critically interesting role to play in this education vision for how to communicate what's going on for the SDGs. And I'm honored to be a part of this team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Indeed, the use of GIS is essential for creating a more sustainable future. The Secretariat of the Global Councils are grateful to each chairperson. We are excited for the journey ahead and wish you the very best of success. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up today's session, we are honored to have His Excellency Umar bin Sultan Al Ulama, Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, digital economy and remote work applications, Managing Director of the World Government Summit Organization, to give the closing remarks. Your Excellency, passing it to you.
Thank you, Hanan, and thank you to every single chairperson. Thank you for the time, for the effort, and really this dedication that you have. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be with all of you here today to witness the aspiration and dedication set by the chairpersons for the second term of the Global Councils on SDGs. I'd like to start by conveying the sincerest appreciation of the Chairman of the World Government Summit, His Excellency, Mr. Mohammed Gargawi, for the efforts, for your dedication over the years, for the altruism that has been visible from your desire to do everything necessary and possible to catalyze a positive momentum for the SDGs. Over the past centuries, and through written and recorded history, we realize that when humanity comes together to achieve a goal, whether it be scientific, economic, or social, the progress that is made and the accomplishments that follow change the course of history. Our gathering today is a historic one. The last few years has been challenging for governments, for businesses and societies worldwide, and it forced us all to adapt to new realities. However, what makes me optimistic is seeing that people are not just able to adapt, but we're also able to thrive in an era of change. The renewal of this dedication today is vital to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. Achieving the SDGs has been a foundational pillar for the World Government Summit Organization. In 2016, the World Government Summit introduced the SDGs in Action platform, which was dedicated for global leaders, experts, and policymakers to convene and address innovative solutions to the implementation of the global goals. With the collaboration of the global community and the strong partnerships that were built, 2018 saw the inauguration of the Global Councils on SDGs. And today we renew and build on our commitments to accelerate the implementations of the 2030 Agenda. Distinguished chairpersons, it really gives me a great pleasure to be a part of this energetic group, to be filled, to be in a room that is filled with passion, and to also be a part of this historic gathering, this historic set of councils, and honestly hope that we'll be able to come back and remember this day as a day that has changed history. Thank you very much for your efforts, and I look forward to seeing you in person in the next World Government Summit.
Thank you, Your Excellency. On behalf of UAE National Committee on SDGs, I would like to thank the Council chairpersons and the audience for attending today's soft launch. I would also like to thank our partners for organizing this event, the World Government Summit Organization, and the Permanent Mission of UAE to the United Nations in New York. We look forward to welcoming you all to Dubai Expo 2020 during the Global Goals Week in January 2022 for the official launch of the Global Councils on the SDGs. Our session now has officially ended. I wish you all the best, and until we meet again, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Much.
Thank you all.
Everyone, and bye.
Thank you. Take care.